Hello and welcome to my channel where we cover all things Weiss Schwarz and chill with friends. My name is DJ Darkrai and today I will be covering my English BOFURI 2-Soul Atrocity deck profile. Before you carry on watching, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell if you want to be informed of when I upload, and join our Discord channel to get involved with the community. Links are in the description below. Firstly, before I start, I'd like to give a shout out to two of my good friends known as Monogatari Steve and Weiss Schwarz for their input in hours of practicing and deck discussion, which ultimately led to this current build. BOFURI was released in the English format of Weiss Schwarz in May 2021, and because I love the anime so much for its light-hearted humour and lovable characters, I knew I had to invest in the set. I had done a little bit of testing with friends using the Japanese cards, namely Mocha's Advice Corner, and with them came across some deck ideas including 8 Standby, Gate Choice, 8 Book, and variations of these, but nothing felt quite right to me, as whilst in the early game the utility of this set was really good, the end game struggled to make an impact. At this point I actually realised I had overlooked another combo that utilised the 2-Soul Climax, which has proved useful in most matchups, especially Standby, by rushing your opponent and ruining their game tempo. After hours and hours of practice in tournament games, I genuinely believe that for now, I have found the most impactful deck that the set offers, and I want to share that list with you. Now, as a foreword, this deck does have a few parts that are interchangeable with other cards in the set, so I'd be interested to hear what you guys think to my deck profile, what changes you would make, and general feedback about this video, and what content you'd like to see in the future, so please, let me know in the comments below. But on that note, let's jump straight into the deck profile. So the deck as a whole is predominantly yellow-blue with a twist of red in the late game, which at first you would look at and ask, why would you run a red level 3 Climax combo and only have 4 red cards in the entire deck? Not only that, only one copy of the Climax. Well, the deck is designed in such a way that it doesn't need to worry about the red colour requirement thanks to a few cards which we'll go into more detail for later on. The ultimate game plan is pretty straightforward, with plenty of room to manipulate in certain matchups and scenarios. First, do what you can to prep your level 1 combo in hand using the utility cards such as drop searches, self-damage searches, colloquially known as rickies, salvage options, and top deck scrying. Once you have sculpted your level 1 hand, you push as hard as you can, whilst being very aware of your opponent's deck state, in order to determine which of your level 1 combos, yes combos, you wish to use to maximise your combo potential. Again, we'll cover this more when we look at the level 1 combo pieces in this deck. You will likely keep this game plan up to about level 2, unless you find yourself in a position where you need or can stall, where the level 3 early play choice combo comes into play. Throughout your entire game, you want to generate enough stock and have the relevant cards in hand in order to use your explosive finisher, the Atrocity Maple. The level 0 lineup of this deck consists of 20 cards, quite a large number given the usual standard of 15 to 18. The reason behind this is because, as mentioned earlier, the early game utility of BOFURI as a whole is definitely one of the selling points of the set, and I'll start with the cards that I really want to see in my opening hand during my first turn. I run 3 copies of Moment Between the Two Maple, a 500 power character which at first begs the question, why would you want to see this? And that's because of its defensive power in flavour with the anime. While she doesn't gain a lot of power during your opponent's turn, she does gain 4,000 power, making her 4,500 power on defense. Now, for those familiar with the game, this sort of power during level 0 is not the easiest to beat, and whilst being level 0 makes it susceptible to on-reverse slayers, it is difficult for an opponent to beat over this without committing a lot of resources. Then, in the high chance of this card surviving for the next turn, it has an act ability where you can pay 1, send it to the waiting room, and look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and add a character amongst them to your hand. This helps sculpt your level 0 utility, as well as preparing for your level 1 game. I also run 3 copies of Twin Younger Sister Yui. It's quite simply a 3,000 power level 0, which is also a Climax swapper, where you can pay 1, discard a Climax in your hand, to salvage a Climax from your waiting room. Because of how vital it is to get the 2-Soul Climax to hand in your early game, having access to this card is really important. However, if you do happen to find that 2-Soul Climax in hands early on, it's still a 3,000 power character at level 0, which sits on the board and again can be quite difficult to beat without your opponent having to commit further resources. In terms of my early game, the last copy that I really want to see is this card here. This is the friendly duo Maple and Sally, which I run 2 of. It's a shop promo, and this card's profile is more commonly known from a rare in the Madoka Magica series, which sports Sayaka and Mami on its art, and has 2 effects. Firstly, you can look at the top card of your deck and put it to the top or bottom of your deck. This gives valuable knowledge, as well as being able to potentially fix an unwanted climax on top of your deck before attacking. And it also helps with the there's 2 other cards that actually helps in level 0, which I'll explain later. But its other effect is just on attack. You can reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a character, you can add it to your hand and then discard it card. So whilst, first of all, this is a great way of hand fixing really early on, you can also use it in combination with the first effect, so that if you see the card that you want on the top of your deck, you keep it on top of your deck, and then attack with this first to get that card from top of your deck into your hand. So it's quite a nice little way of fixing your hand earlier on, and these are definitely the 3 cards I want to see at the beginning of the game. Moving on to the rest of the level 0s, I run 3 copies of the Battlecrest Woman Is. This card is our damage self-searcher, or known as a Ricky, and its core effect is quite simple. On play, you may pay 1, put the top card of your deck into your clock, and if you do, you can search for a level 1 or lower character from your deck. You will likely play this card during your second turn, so that you've got the stock in order to use the effect, and then you can use that to basically get your level 1 combo pieces to hand, as well as if you need to push yourself to level 1 to get your level 1 combo off just that little bit earlier, to basically take your opponent off guard. And the second effect is quite a minor one, but it's when your other character's battle opponent becomes reversed, this card gains 1,000 power for the turn, which, you know, it's just a little addition which might help you beat over another character during your attack. I run 3 copies of Tranquil Waters Maple. It's the salvage option of the deck, and its effect is on play, you may discard a card from your hand as cost, and if you do, you may reveal the top card of your deck, and then salvage a character from your waiting room with level equal to or lower than the level of the card revealed from your deck. This works very well with the Maple and Sally promo, as it potentially allows you to know what level you will be revealing, which, if you need that level 1 combo piece which is in your waiting room in your hand, you can try and increase your chances of being able to do so. I run 3 copies of Multicolored Sally. It's the set's best brainstormer, in my opinion, and it has 3 effects. First, it is a pay 1 tap self search brainstormer, where you reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, and for every climax revealed amongst them, you can search for a character in your deck. And its second effect is when you play a climax, you can discard a card to draw a card, a great way to fix your hand. And its final effect, which is of great importance to the end game of this deck, is that you can play climaxes without meeting colour requirement. So there is a rule in Weiss Schwarz that is, unless you have a card of a specific colour in your level or clock, you cannot play characters that are level 1 or higher, you cannot play events, or you cannot play climaxes of that colour. So for example, if I didn't have red normally in my level or my clock, I could not play red cards except for level 0 characters. So, you know, having this card here actually allows, it's absolutely vital to enable us to play the red climax, for the red climax combo, as it's very unlikely that you'll get the red into your level or clock at the later parts of the game when you need it most. And this is actually just one of 3 cards, as mentioned earlier, that allow this deck to not worry about the lack of red in this deck despite the red finisher. Another card that helps with the lack of red is this. It's Strongest Newbie Maple, which I run as a 2 of, and it has 2 effects. Firstly, on play, you may discard a specifically named level 3 Maple, which is used for the choice combo, which is this Loving Sacrifice Maple. And if you do that, you can basically what we call free fresh, which means put all of your cards from your waiting room into your deck without having to take a refresh penalty. This can be useful to stop yourself taking unnecessary damage, as well as putting climaxes back into your deck if you have gone through a lot early on. Its second effect is what helps the red late game. If you're level 3, you may pay 1, send this card from the stage to your waiting room to play any card from your hand with Maple in its name. And that includes the level 3 Maple finisher, which is here. And, you know, and the great thing with this card as well is that to do that effect, it allows you to play the card from hand regardless of colour requirements. So it bypasses that in-game mechanic. The final level 0 I run is just a one-off, and this is the Flare XL Me. It's the Sets Drop Searcher, which is on play. You may pay 1, discard a card from your hand, to search your deck for any game character, and its second effect, which is on play, you may give one of your opponent's character in their centre stage or their front row minus 1000 power, which could be quite useful to getting over cards that might just have been out of reach otherwise. And that's it for the level 0 lineup. As mentioned earlier, the main purpose of the level 0s in this deck is to fix your hand as much as possible in the level 1 game, provide support to sculpt your hand, and resources for your late game, and enable you to use your level 3 finisher without issue. Now let's move on to the level 1s of this deck. So this deck is home to 10 level 1 characters, 7 of which are used for the level 1 Climax combo game, increasing your odds of being able to perform your combo as soon as you hit level 1. I'll talk about these 7 cards first as a group: Battle Ready Force Mai and Battle Ready Force Yui, at 3 and 4 copies respectively. Both of these gain 500 power for each other character you have on your stage during your turn, and both of the combo effects rely on the same climax, the 2-soul Climax Destroyer. And the Climax combo is as follows. If the condition is met and that climax is in your climax area, you may put a character from your waiting room to your stock, and then reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card is a character, add it to your hand. The different conditions on these though, so for the Mai, it is if its damage is cancelled, and then for the Yui, it's if at any point your opponent levels up during the attack phase when the climax is in play. And at first I ran 4 of the Mai and 3 of the Yui, but I always found myself wanting to play the Yui instead of the Mai, just because of its effect can go off as long as you force your opponent to level up, even once, potentially twice, if you can judge your opponent's deck state. And you know, the combination of what you decide to use of these 2 cards during a level 1 turn, it really does rely on your ability to judge and determine your opponent's deck state. If you know that your opponent is well compressed with a high climax to card ratio in their deck, you will want to prioritize the Mai. However, if you know that they are out a lot of climaxes, you know that there's a very good chance of a lot of damage going through, and it might be worth going super aggressive and focusing on the Yui. Or you could use a ratio of the 2, depending on what you know about your opponent's deck state. In a normal game, I usually get 2 to 4 of the effects activating in the first 2 turns of going to level 1, and the great thing about having 7 cards that use the same combo at the same level is that unlike most level 1 combos, you're not too bothered if you lose your level 1 combos from the stage, because you have plenty more to access. I play with the idea of running 4 of each, but I did feel that was a little overkill. But, you know, ultimately this combo, whilst it is very high risk, high reward, it definitely rewards very statistical thinking and good RNG, something that I've been told seems to follow me. And not only that, this combo is rather aggressive, and that, for me, definitely suits my personal playstyle. The other 3 level 1s consist of 2 copies of Shield and Buckler made Maple and Sully, and 1 copy of Unbalanced Maple. The Shield and Buckler is a great card for the English meta for its one and only effect, a level down. To explain fully, on play, I may discard a card from my hand as cost, and if I do, you may choose one of your opponent's level 1 or higher characters on the stage, and your opponent must exchange it with a character in their waiting room, which is at least 1 level lower than the targeted card. This has a significant impact against cards that are intended to come out early, as well as punch through a wall in your opponent's defences. Key examples of this are levelling down a level 3 early play, or a level 2 that was played early through standby, or even targeting a back row assist character to help power down characters on their centre stage. The Unbalanced Maple is a one of which is more of a tech to deal with cards that gain certain effects cross turn. For example, it deals with horrible neg soul combos such as Priestess in Goblin Slayer, or the anticipated Sora in Hololive, or level 1 cross turn climax combos such as the Eren in Attack on Titan, or Megamin from the Konosuba Crimson Legend movie set, or power buffs that are given cross turn such as like the level 1 Toka in Data Live, or the level 0 Toka Brainstormer, which gives 1000 cross turn. And that's it for level 1, so we'll move on to the level 2 breakdown. So the deck only contains 1 level 2 character. It's a one-off for the win Kanade, and you know, it's not the only card that you should be expecting to play through the level 2 game, which I'll come to later. This Kanade is a tech card, and basically it helps deal with certain matchups to help protect your level 3s. Its main purpose comes from its continuous effect, which protects 2 of your level 3 maples. Firstly, the Loving Sacrifice maple here, and secondly, your level 3 finisher, the Atrocity maple. And it basically, the way it protects it is that it gives the those 2 named cards the continuous effect of this card cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects, namely a hexproof, if you wish to use the coined phrase. And it's got a second effect, which is you can discard 2 cards from your hand and rest this in order to choose a card in your waiting room with the same name as something that's already on the stage and put it into play from waiting room. And I'll explain why that's quite useful in a moment if you decide that you need to use it. Moving on to this card here, this level 3 that's sitting here is part of the level 2 breakdown, Loving Sacrifice Maple. The reason why it's here in the level 2 play is that it's an early play healer. Namely, as long as you've got 2 or less climaxes in your waiting room, this card can be played at level 2. And then if this card is played from hand, you get to put the top card of your clock into your waiting room, so you get to heal. And then it has a climax combo with the choice combo here, and the combo is on attack. As long as you've got 4 or more other characters on the field and this character is on stage, or in play should I say, you can gain 2,500 power until the end of your opponent's turn. And also, it also gains this other effect until the end of your opponent's turn, which is it gives the character facing it -2 soul. And you know, if you need to change the pace of the game, this allows you to protect yourself from a significant amount of damage for the turn, as well as hopefully trying to keep a character around for the next turn as well. And another important reason having this card is actually, like I said, I mentioned earlier, this card actually is required in order to get the free fresh effect from this strongest newbie maple. And that's it for the level 2 play for this deck. You wouldn't expect anything else at level 2 apart from, again, just playing your level 1 combos and trying to maximize off those. So we're going to move straight on to the level 3 game. Now, as mentioned before, BOFURI really struggles in the late stages of the game due to the lack of consistent finishers. However, its most explosive finisher comes in the form of Atrocity Maple. I've run this as a 2 of, and this card is on play, has 2 effects. Firstly, it gains 3,000 power for the turn, and secondly, you can pay 1 to salvage a climax from your waiting room. Now, this effect is basically what allows the deck to only run one copy of the climax, the boss monster. So because you're able to just search for or salvage the climax quite easily, plus you have access to all of the climax swappers, you can run this only as a one-off, meaning that you've got more space to run other climaxes and other combos and other cards in general, which allows basically access to the choice combo that I mentioned earlier. And not only that as well, usually playing this card from hand, it would be impossible given the deck build and the lack of red cards. But that's where, again, as we mentioned earlier, the strongest newbie maple, as well as the Snow White maple, which I'll cover more in a moment, basically allows the Atrocity maple to be played from hand without the need to fulfill colour requirements. And then the actual combo itself. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you may pay 6, discard 2 cards from your hand, and send the door climax from the climax area to the waiting room. And if you pay that cost, you may burn 1, burn 2, and then burn 3. So whilst these are all cancelable instances of damages, you know, it does provide an additional 3 instances of damage, and in a well distributed way as well. The only downside really is that you're required to reverse your opponent, meaning that your opponent can play around the combo. However, being able to attack with 13,500 power, or if played with the Snow White Maple, 15,500 power, you can usually meet the requirement to reverse, as long as there is a target to reverse. And I found that having the resource to complete this combo is usually pretty easy, as long as you are mindful of how much stock you use during the early game, and you know how well your level 1 combo does in terms of generating stock. And you know, it can easily change the flow of a game, or even cause an unexpected win. And you know, worst comes to worst, if you know you can't accomplish this combo, it does, the deck as a whole does have a couple of other damage outlets, starting with the Snow White Maple. This card I run as a 3 of, and it has 2 effects. 1, on play, you may play a character from hand for free, and give it 2000 power, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of the Atrocity Maple being able to play that for free regardless of colour requirement. And its second effect is on attack, you may pay 2, and then if you do that, you can choose any one of your characters that are on play and give that character up to once per turn. When damage dealt by this card is cancelled, you may deal 1 damage to your opponent. And basically you can use this card to, worst comes to worst, play another copy of the card from hand, and then you could use, when that card comes into play, because it's coming to play from hand, its first effect goes off again, letting you play another level 3. So you could play a full board of level 3s for 2 stock, or depending on how your situation is, you might be able to even do it with 1 stock using this card here, the Giant Killing Mei and Yui. And this again I run as a 2 of and has 2 effects. Firstly, when it's put into play, as long as you've got a full stage, i.e. you've got 4 or more other characters, you can put a character from your waiting room and put it into stock. So like I said, so comboing it with the Snow White Maple here, if I was to pay 2, play a Snow White Maple, this would let me play another Snow White Maple from hand for free, and then because this comes into play from hand, I could play a Giant Killing Mei and Yui from hand for free, and then as long as I've got 2 cards in the back row as well, it will then mean that I can put a character from waiting room to stock, meaning that that entire field of level 3s cost me a total of 1 stock. And its second effect, again, is quite useful as another damage outlet. It is known as a Musashi effect colloquially within the Weiss community. But for those that don't know, that means that on the turn it is played from hand up to once per turn. If its card's damage is cancelled, you may mill the top card of your deck and then burn equal to the level of that card milled plus 1. So for example, if you milled a Climax, which is classed as a level 0, or a level 0, you would burn 1, you mill a level 1, you burn 2, and so on and so forth. And, you know, you can basically combo this with the Snow White as well, and you can do some real good damage output. So you could potentially use 2 Snow Whites and then the Giant Killing Yui to basically give all the effects to the Mei and Yui, and give basically on cancel burn X using the Musashi effect, and also a burn 1 and also a burn 1. And you can choose the order as well. So if you know what your opponent's deck state is and you have a feeling that you might hit a Climax on top, you can always do the burn 1 first to basically snipe it off the deck. Or if you know that they're pretty low in the number of Climaxes, you can go hard and use the Musashi effect to start with. And then the final level 3 that's used in the deck is this. It's a Machine God Maple. And this card is known as a stock swap, meaning that on play, you may pay the cost, which in this case is 1 stock, and you may send your opponent's stock to their waiting room, and then put the same number of cards from the top of your opponent's deck into their stock. And this can quite simply win a game, because you could use the effect on a very compressed deck, and basically cause them to become very decompressed. If they have, say, 5 Climaxes in their deck, with quite a bit of stock, say 10 stock, and you use this effect, you get rid of potentially up to 5 Climaxes from their deck, which is absolutely vital. It also causes your opponent sometimes to go into a refresh state, meaning that it'll take an uncancelable point of damage, which again, if you need that just a little bit of push towards the end of the game, this can really help. But it's quite rare that you need to use it, so as such, I run it as a 1 of. And that's it for the level 3 game, and we'll go on to the Climax Distribution. The Climax breakdown is a little bit different from your standard 4-4 split, and consists of 4 2-soul Climaxes, 3 choices, and 1 door. Now the reason you can get away with this type of Climax split is because of the number of Climax swappers being played, as well as the effect of the Atrocity Maple being able to grab any Climax from your waiting room when you need it. I did try this build using the blue Gate Climax, which combos with the Machine God Maple for an Icy Tail effect, which is on attack. You may put the bottom 4 cards of your opponent's deck to the waiting room and burn for the number of Climaxes put into the waiting room by that effect. And whilst the Gate trigger is useful for recycling your Climaxes, the actual combo itself is worse than the Love and Sacrifice Maple in my opinion. And also, I just believe you don't need 2 finishing combos in a deck. Just because for this build, I think that the choice trigger is better because it actually helps you generate hand or stock when you need to, which is very important. And also, it gives you access to use the strongest newbie maple, which gives more options for the Atrocity maple to be played without color requirement. And that is my English BOFURI 2 Soul Atrocity deck profile. What do you think? Is there anything you would do differently? Do you think that there is a better BOFURI build? Let me know in the comments below. But I hope you enjoyed my video and learned something about the set or the game, as well as took inspiration if you're looking for a new build to try out. If you liked it, please let me know by hitting that like button below, and if you want more Weiss Schwarz and gaming content, please feel free to subscribe. If there's any content you would like to see on this channel, please let me know in the comments, and be sure to join my Discord channel if you want to be involved in my future content. Links will be in the description below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!